The morning sun rose over the wide fields of New Eden colony. Golden wheat moved in gentle waves as the wind blew across the land. The air smelled fresh and clean. Birds sang in the distance. Everything looked peaceful. Jake Morrison stood on the porch of the main office building. He held a cup of coffee and watched the day begin. Workers walked toward the fields. Some drove small vehicles. Others carried tools. Jake smiled as he watched them. This looked like any normal farming day. "Good morning, Jake," said a voice behind him. Amy Rodriguez walked out of the building. She carried a tablet computer and wore work clothes. "The crop reports look good this week." Jake turned to her. "That's great news. How are the wheat yields?" "Better than expected," Amy said. "The new fertilizer system is working well. We should have enough grain to fill the next transport ship." Jake nodded. Amy was the best agricultural director they had ever had. She knew everything about farming. The colony was lucky to have her. Down in the fields, Ryan Cooper checked the automatic harvesting machines. These big machines cut the wheat and stored it in large containers. Ryan made sure they worked properly. He had been doing this job for 3 years. He was good at it. "Ryan, how do the machines look today?" called Katie Williams from nearby. She was walking between the animal pens. Hundreds of cattle and sheep lived in these pens. They provided meat and milk for the colony. "All good," Ryan called back. "The harvesters are running smooth. We should finish the north field by lunchtime." Katie smiled and continued her work. She checked the water systems for the animals. She made sure they had enough food. The animals looked healthy and strong. Some baby calves played in the grass. Near the grain storage buildings, Ben Fletcher supervised the loading process. Workers moved bags of grain from storage into waiting trucks. The trucks would take the grain to the spaceport. From there, transport ships would carry it to other worlds. "Careful with those bags," Ben told the workers. "We don't want any grain spilling on the ground." The workers nodded and continued their job. They had done this many times before. Ben was a good supervisor. He made sure everything ran smoothly. At the communications center, Megan Torres sat at her desk. Multiple screens showed information from around the colony. She tracked weather reports, ship schedules, and messages from other worlds. Her job was to keep New Eden connected to the rest of human space. A message came in from the transport ship Meridian. "New Eden Colony, this is Captain Stevens. We will arrive in 4 days to pick up your grain shipment. Please confirm you have the full order ready." Megan pressed a button on her console. "Captain Stevens, this is New Eden. We confirm your shipment is ready. We have 500 tons of grade A wheat and 200 tons of processed meat products waiting for pickup." "Understood, New Eden. See you in 4 days. Meridian out." Megan marked the message as complete. Everything was normal. Just another routine day on the farming colony. The colony had been running for 5 years now. It started small with just 50 people. Now over 800 people lived and worked on New Eden. Most of them were farmers, animal handlers, and support workers. They came from Earth and other human worlds looking for a simple life. Jake walked through the main street of the colony town. Small houses lined both sides of the road. Children played in their yards. Women hung clothes on lines to dry. Men worked in gardens behind their homes. Everyone seemed happy and content. "Morning, Jake," said old Pete Murphy. He sat on his front porch fixing a broken tool. "Nice day for farming." "Sure is, Pete," Jake replied. "How's the family?" "Good, good. My grandson caught his first fish yesterday." Boy was excited. Jake laughed. "That's wonderful. Kids love fishing." He continued down the street. At the school, children were starting their morning lessons. The teacher, Linda Hayes, stood in front of the classroom pointing at a picture of different plants. "These are the main crops we grow here on New Eden," she told the students. "Wheat, corn, soybeans, and vegetables. Who can tell me why we grow these particular crops?" A young boy raised his hand. "Because they grow well in our soil and climate?" "That's right, Tommy, very good." Jake smiled as he passed the school. The children were learning well. They would grow up to be good farmers and colonists. At the medical center, Dr. Sarah Kim checked on her patients. Most visits were for minor injuries and routine checkups. Yesterday, she treated a farmer who cut his hand on a tool. Last week, she helped deliver a baby. Life on New Eden was generally safe and healthy. The colony had all the basic services people needed. A small store sold food and supplies. A repair shop fixed broken equipment. A few restaurants served simple meals. There was even a small library where people could read books and use computers. Everything about New Eden looked normal. The daily routine never changed much. People worked hard during the day and rested at night. Families gathered for meals. Friends talked and laughed together. It was the kind of peaceful life many people dreamed about, but if someone looked very carefully, they might notice a few odd things. The grain storage buildings were bigger than a normal farming colony would need. Some of the irrigation equipment looked more advanced than usual. The communications center had more antennas than necessary for a simple farming community. The colonists themselves also seemed different in small ways. They moved with purpose and confidence. They stayed calm during emergencies. They worked together very well, like they had military training. Jake finished his morning walk and returned to the office. Amy was still there, studying reports on her tablet. "Everything looks good out there," Jake told her. "The harvest is going well. The animals are healthy. The people are happy." Amy nodded but didn't look up from her tablet. "Jake, we're getting some unusual readings from the long-range sensors. Probably nothing, but I thought you should know." Jake's expression changed slightly. "What kind of readings?" "Ships moving in our direction. Still far away. Could be traders or explorers." "Keep monitoring," Jake said. "Let me know if anything changes." Amy nodded and went back to her work. Jake sat at his desk and opened his computer. On the screen were reports that looked like normal farming documents, but a trained eye would notice they contained more information than usual about defensive positions, supply levels, and personnel assignments. Outside, the peaceful farming colony continued its daily routine. Workers harvested grain, animals grazed in fields, children played and learned. Nobody seemed worried about anything. The day passed quietly. The sun moved across the sky. Workers finished their tasks and went home to their families. Dinner time came and went. Lights came on in houses as darkness fell. Jake stood on his porch again, looking up at the stars. New Eden was far from Earth and the main human worlds. Out here on the frontier, colonies had to take care of themselves. They had to be ready for anything, but tonight everything was peaceful. Just another quiet day on the farming colony of New Eden. The morning started like any other day on New Eden. Workers went to the fields, animals were fed, children played before school. Everything seemed normal and peaceful. But at the communications center, Megan Torres was watching something that made her worried. The screen showed dots moving through space toward their planet. She had been tracking them for 2 hours now. "Jake, you need to see this," Megan called over the radio. Jake Morrison was in his office reviewing crop reports. When he heard Megan's voice, he heard something different in it. "Something serious. On my way," Jake said. He put down his papers and walked quickly to the communications center. When Jake arrived, Megan pointed at the main screen. 12 ships coming our way, big ones. They'll be here in about 6 hours. Jake studied the display. The ships were large and moving in a military formation. This was not a trade convoy or exploration group. "Any identification signals?" "Yes," Megan said quietly. "Zarathi Empire." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Every human in the outer colonies knew about the Zarathi. They were an alien race that conquered human worlds. In the past year, they had attacked and taken over 47 human colonies. "Are you sure?" Jake asked. Megan nodded. "I ran the signal patterns 3 times. Definitely Zarathi. 12 heavy cruisers and what looks like a command ship." Jake was quiet for a moment. He thought about the 800 people living on New Eden. Men, women, and children who had come here looking for a peaceful life. Now death was coming toward them from space. "Send a message to all department heads," Jake said. "Emergency meeting in conference room 1. Right now." Within 10 minutes, the key people from around the colony had gathered. Amy Rodriguez from agriculture, Ben Fletcher from grain processing, Ryan Cooper from equipment maintenance, Katie Williams from livestock management, Dr. Sarah Kim from medical, and a few others. Jake closed the door and looked at each person. "The Zarathi are coming. 12 ships. They'll be here in 6 hours." The room went very quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. The Zarathi Empire had a simple way of dealing with human colonies. They demanded surrender. If the colonists refused, the aliens destroyed everything from orbit. "What are our options?" asked Dr. Kim. "Not many," Jake said honestly. "We can try to evacuate, but we don't have enough transport ships. We can surrender and hope they let us live. Or we can try to fight, but we have no military weapons here." Amy Rodriguez spoke up. "What about contacting the Human Defense Force?" "The nearest HDF ships are 3 weeks away," Jake replied. "We're on our own. Ben Fletcher shook his head. This is crazy. We're just farmers. We don't have anything the Zarathi would want except food. That's exactly what they want, Jake explained. They need food supplies for their expanding empire. They've been taking over agricultural worlds all along the frontier. Katie Williams asked, "How long do we have to decide?" The Zarathi usually give colonies 1 hour to surrender after they arrive, Jake said. If we refuse, they start bombing. The meeting continued for another hour. They talked about evacuation plans, hiding places, and ways to contact other human worlds for help. But everyone knew the truth. New Eden was doomed. Meanwhile, in space above New Eden, the Zarathi fleet moved closer. The ships were dark gray and covered with weapon systems. They looked like giant metal insects designed for war. On the lead ship, Fleet Commander Vexithara studied reports about the human colony below. His species looked like tall, thin lizards with forearms and sharp claws. Vexithara had been conquering human worlds for 5 years. It was always easy work. What do we know about this colony? Vexithara asked his aide. Simple farming settlement, Commander, the aide replied. Population around 800, no orbital defenses. No military installations detected. Standard agricultural equipment only. Vexithara made a sound that was like laughing. Another easy victory. These humans never learn. They put their colonies on the frontier with no protection. Shall we offer them the usual surrender terms? The aide asked. Of course. Give them 1 hour to surrender all their food supplies and equipment. If they refuse, we destroy the colony and take what we want from the ruins. The aide nodded and went to prepare the message. Back on New Eden, people were starting to notice that something was wrong. Workers saw the department heads having serious conversations. Children noticed their parents looked worried. Rumors began to spread through the colony. Jake decided it was time to tell everyone the truth. He activated the colony-wide communication system. Attention all residents of New Eden. Jake's voice came through speakers everywhere. Please gather in the main square immediately. I have important information to share. Within an hour, most of the colony's 800 people had gathered in the square. They stood in groups, talking quietly and looking worried. Children stayed close to their parents. Jake stood on a small platform where everyone could see him. I won't lie to you, he began. We have a serious problem. A Zarathi fleet is approaching our planet. They will be here in about 4 hours. The crowd began to talk loudly. Some people cried. Others looked angry. Parents held their children tighter. Jake raised his hand for quiet. I know you're scared. I'm scared too, but we need to work together. We have some options, but not much time. What kind of options? Called out Pete Murphy. We can try to evacuate some people on the few ships we have, Jake said. We can hide in the underground shelters and hope they don't find us. Or we can surrender and hope they treat us fairly. What about fighting? Asked a young man named Carl Davis. Jake shook his head. We're farmers, not soldiers. We have no weapons that could hurt their ships. The crowd talked among themselves. Fear and despair filled their voices. Many people had come to New Eden to escape the wars and violence of other worlds. Now war had found them anyway. Amy Rodriguez stepped forward. Whatever we decide, we need to act fast. Let's start by getting the children and elderly to the underground shelters. They'll be safer there. People began to move. Families gathered their most important belongings. The school teachers led children toward the shelter entrances. Elderly residents were helped by younger neighbors. As this was happening, Megan Torres received a message from space. Her face went pale as she read it. Jake, she called over the radio. The Zarathi are sending us a message. Jake hurried back to the communications center. Put it on the main screen. The display showed the image of Fleet Commander Vexithara. His reptilian features looked cold and dangerous. When he spoke, his voice was harsh and commanding. Human colony of New Eden. I am Fleet Commander Vexithara of the Zarathi Empire. Your world is now under our control. You have 1 hour to surrender all food supplies, equipment, and facilities to our forces. Any resistance will result in complete destruction of your colony. You have been warned. The message ended. The screen went dark. Jake stared at the blank screen. 1 hour, that's all they had. Around him, the other department heads looked as shocked as he felt. What do we do now? Whispered Dr. Kim. Jake was quiet for a long moment. He thought about all the people depending on him. The farmers who trusted him to keep them safe. The children who should have long, happy lives ahead of them. The families who just wanted to live in peace. We prepare for the worst, Jake said finally. Get everyone to the shelters. save what we can, and hope for a miracle. But Jake knew that miracles were rare in space. The Zarathi had conquered dozens of human worlds. They had never been defeated by a farming colony. New Eden seemed doomed to become just another victory for the alien empire. Outside, people were running toward the underground shelters. Parents carried babies. Older children helped grandparents walk. Everyone moved as fast as they could. The peaceful farming colony was preparing for war. But they had no weapons, no soldiers, no way to fight back against the warships approaching from space. Time was running out. The Zarathi fleet grew larger in the sky above New Eden. Soon everything would change forever. As families rushed toward the underground shelters, something strange began to happen. The panicked crowd of farmers started moving in organized patterns. People who had seemed scared now walked with purpose and discipline. Jake Morrison watched from the communications center as the evacuation proceeded. But this wasn't really an evacuation. It was something else entirely. "Amy, activate Code Shepherd," Jake said quietly into his radio. Amy Rodriguez was near the main shelter entrance. When she heard Jake's words, her whole posture changed. The worried agricultural director disappeared. In her place stood someone who moved like a trained soldier. "Code Shepherd confirmed," Amy replied. "All units report to battle stations." Throughout the colony, people received the message differently than expected. Instead of fear, their faces showed determination. Instead of panic, they moved with military precision. Ben Fletcher was at the grain storage buildings when he got the signal. He immediately went to a hidden panel on the wall. His fingerprint unlocked it. Inside were controls that had nothing to do with storing grain. "Missile systems coming online," Ben reported over his radio. "All tubes ready for loading." The grain silos weren't really grain silos. They were vertical launch systems for advanced missiles. Each silo contained 12 long-range weapons capable of destroying starships. Ryan Cooper was in the equipment maintenance building, but when Code Shepherd activated, he revealed his true purpose. The building's floor slid apart. Below was a control center filled with weapon systems. "Anti-ship batteries powering up," Ryan said into his headset. "Railgun systems operational. Targeting computers online." What had looked like irrigation pumps scattered across the fields were actually concealed weapon emplacements. Each one held a railgun capable of firing metal slugs at incredible speeds, fast enough and powerful enough to punch through alien ship armor. Katie Williams ran toward the livestock buildings, but she wasn't going to check on the animals. Hidden beneath the barns was a sophisticated sensor array more advanced than anything the Zarathi had ever seen. "Sensor net is active," Katie reported. "I have clear readings on all 12 enemy ships. Range, speed, and weapon status confirmed." The peaceful farming colony of New Eden was transforming before the Zarathi's eyes, but the aliens didn't know it yet. Their sensors showed only normal agricultural activity. Jake Morrison walked to his office and opened a special safe. Inside was a military uniform and rank insignia. Colonel Jake Morrison of the Human Defense Force put on his real clothes for the first time in 5 years. Amy Rodriguez did the same. Major Amy Rodriguez had been trained in defensive tactics and military engineering. She had helped design the hidden systems now coming online all over New Eden. In the underground areas beneath the colony, massive doors opened. What the colonists had thought were storage rooms and shelter areas were actually something much more impressive. Luke Anderson and Ashley Brooks ran down metal corridors toward a huge underground hangar. They had been pretending to be farmers, but they were really fighter pilots. Elite pilots trained to fly the most advanced ships in human space. "Stealth fighters prepped and ready," Luke reported as he climbed into his cockpit. "All systems green." "Same here," Ashley said from her fighter. "Weapons loaded. Shields charged." The hangar doors opened in the ground. To the Zarathi watching from space, it would look like small service vehicles emerging. They would never see the cloaked fighters until it was too late. All around New Eden, hidden systems came alive. What had appeared to be a simple farming colony was actually one of the most advanced military installations in human space. The colonists weren't really farmers. They were soldiers, technicians, and support staff, all volunteers who had spent years living undercover to maintain the illusion of a peaceful agricultural settlement. Dr. Sarah Kim opened a medical facility that could handle combat casualties. Alex Martinez powered up the colony's advanced shield generators. Sam Parker supervised ammunition loading for the missile systems. Nicole Davis coordinated supply lines between the various weapon stations. Her job was to make sure every system had power and ammunition throughout the coming battle. Meanwhile, on the Zarathi command ship, Fleet Commander Vexithara was getting ready to receive the colony's surrender. He expected the humans to give up without a fight, just like all the others. Any response from the planet? Vexithara asked his aide. Not yet, Commander, but there are 30 minutes left in their deadline. Vexithara nodded. Prepare the boarding parties. Once they surrender, we'll need troops on the ground to secure the food supplies. But the Zarathi sensors weren't detecting what was really happening on New Eden. The human technology was too advanced. Systems that looked like farming equipment were actually military hardware designed to hide from alien detection. Colonel Morrison stood in the real command center beneath his office. Banks of computers showed the positions of every Zarathi ship. Weapon systems reported ready status. Personnel confirmed they were at battle stations. All units, this is Morrison, he spoke into the tactical communication system. Remember your training. We've practiced this scenario hundreds of times. Stay calm, follow your orders. Trust your equipment. Major Rodriguez was at the defensive coordination station. Sir, all systems report operational. Shields at full power. Weapons loaded and targeted. Stealth fighters ready for launch. How are our people doing? Morrison asked. No fear, sir. Everyone knows their job. Morale is high. Morrison smiled for the first time that day. These weren't scared farmers facing destruction. These were professional soldiers who had been waiting 5 years for this moment. The plan had been simple but brilliant. Human command knew the Zarathi were expanding along the frontier. They needed to establish defensive positions, but obvious military bases would be targeted immediately. So they created fake farming colonies, places that looked completely peaceful but were actually armed and ready for war. New Eden was one of dozens of such installations scattered across human space. The colonists had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might spend years pretending to be farmers. They had families and built real lives here, but they never forgot their true purpose. Now that purpose was about to be tested. Sir, called out Megan Torres from the communication station, the Zarathi are demanding a response to their ultimatum. Morrison looked at the countdown timer. 15 minutes left. Time to spring the trap. Open a channel, Morrison ordered. The main screen showed Fleet Commander Vexithara waiting for the humans' surrender message. The alien commander looked confident and bored. This was routine for him. Zarathi fleet, this is New Eden colony, Morrison said. We have received your demands. Vexithara leaned forward. Good. Do you surrender your colony and all its resources to the Zarathi Empire? Morrison was quiet for a moment. Around him, his people waited for his words. Weapon systems hummed with power. Hidden fighters prepared to launch. The fate of New Eden hung in the balance. No, Morrison said simply. We do not surrender. Vexithara's expression changed to anger. Then you have chosen death. We will destroy your pathetic farming colony and take what we want from the ruins. You're welcome to try, Morrison replied. Then he cut the transmission. The alien commander stared at the blank screen in disbelief. In 5 years of conquering human colonies, none had ever refused surrender. These humans had just signed their own death warrants. All ships, Vexithara commanded, begin orbital bombardment, destroy everything. But as the Zarathi fleet moved into attack position, they had no idea what they were really facing. They thought they were attacking helpless farmers. They were about to discover that New Eden was actually a fortress. A fortress that had been waiting patiently for 5 years for exactly this moment. Colonel Morrison looked around the command center at his people. Soldiers disguised as farmers. Warriors pretending to be peaceful colonists. The best and brightest volunteers from across human space. All stations, this is Morrison, he announced. The enemy is moving into position. Prepare to engage. Show them what happens when they threaten human civilians. The battle for New Eden was about to begin, and the Zarathi Empire was about to learn that humans were much more dangerous than they appeared. At exactly 800 hours, the Zarathi fleet moved into perfect bombardment position above New Eden. Fleet Commander Vexithara prepared to destroy what he thought was a defenseless farming colony. All ships, target the main settlement, Vexithara ordered. Begin firing in 3, 2, 1, but at that exact moment, Colonel Morrison gave his own order. All units engage. Fire at will. What happened next changed everything. The grain silos that had stored wheat for 5 years suddenly split open. From inside each silo, missiles erupted into the sky. Not one or two missiles, but dozens from each location. Over 200 advanced human missiles streaked toward the Zarathi fleet. What is happening? Vexthara shouted as his ship's alarms began to sound. Where are those missiles coming from? His aide was frantically checking instruments. Unknown, Commander. Our sensors showed only farming equipment on the surface. The first wave of missiles slammed into the Zarathi ships. Advanced human warheads exploded against alien shields. The shields held, but barely. Warning lights flashed on every alien ship, but the missiles were just the beginning. Ben Fletcher pressed firing controls in his hidden command center. All across the fields of New Eden, innocent-looking irrigation pumps revealed their true nature. They were railgun batteries. Each one fired a metal slug the size of a baseball at nearly the speed of light. The railgun rounds hit the Zarathi ships like hammers striking glass. They punched clean through the alien shields as if they weren't there. The super-fast metal slugs tore gaping holes in ship hulls. Shields are down on ships 4 and 7, reported a Zarathi officer. We're taking heavy damage. Impossible, Vexthara snarled. These are farmers, not soldiers. Ryan Cooper coordinated the anti-ship battery fire from his control center. Target the command ship's weapon systems, he ordered.
Take out their ability to bomb the surface. More railgun rounds found their targets.
The Zarathi command ship shuddered as hits destroyed its main weapons. Explosions rippled along its hull. Katie Williams watched her sensor displays and called out target information. Ship number 3 is turning to run. Ship number 6 has lost power to engines. The Zarathi fleet was in chaos. They had expected to face helpless humans. Instead, they were being torn apart by weapons more advanced than their own. But the humans weren't done yet. Luke Anderson's stealth fighter rose from its underground hangar. To Zarathi sensors, it was invisible. The advanced human cloaking technology made his ship disappear completely. Stealth 1 is airborne, Luke reported. Beginning attack run on target ship 2. His fighter carried weapons designed specifically to fight Zarathi vessels. Armor-piercing torpedoes that could crack alien hulls like eggs. Luke locked onto his target and fired. The torpedoes appeared from nowhere as far as the Zarathi were concerned. They slammed into ship number 2's engine section. The massive alien cruiser exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Ship 2 is destroyed, Ashley Brooks reported from her own stealth fighter. Beginning attack on target ship 5. Her weapons were just as deadly. Another Zarathi cruiser died in seconds, its crew never knowing what hit them. Commander Vexthara watched his fleet being destroyed and couldn't understand how it was happening. All ships return fire at the surface. Destroy everything down there. But when the Zarathi tried to shoot back, their weapons couldn't penetrate the shields protecting New Eden. Alex Martinez had activated defense systems that created a protective dome over the entire colony. The alien energy beams and missiles struck the shields and bounced away harmlessly. The humans had better defensive technology than the Zarathi had ever seen. 3 minutes elapsed. Major Rodriguez reported to Colonel Morrison, enemy fleet at 60% strength and falling. Morrison watched the battle displays with satisfaction. Years of planning and preparation were paying off. The Zarathi had walked into a perfectly prepared trap. Focus fire on their remaining heavy ships, Morrison ordered. Don't let any of them escape to report what happened here. More missiles launched from the hidden silos. More railgun rounds tore through alien hulls. The stealth fighters darted between enemy ships like deadly shadows, striking and vanishing before the Zarathi could respond. Sam Parker coordinated ammunition supplies from his underground bunker. All weapon stations, you have unlimited ammunition. Keep firing until they're all destroyed or running away. Nicole Davis managed the power distribution systems. The hidden fusion reactors beneath New Eden provided more than enough energy to keep all weapons firing at maximum rate. At 5 minutes into the battle, the Zarathi finally realized they were facing a real military installation, not a farming colony, but by then it was too late. Commander, his aide reported with terror in his voice. We've lost 7 ships. 2 more are heavily damaged. Our weapons can't penetrate their defenses. Vexthara couldn't believe what he was hearing. His fleet was one of the most powerful in the Zarathi Empire. They had conquered dozens of human worlds. How could farmers be defeating them? All remaining ships prepare to retreat, Vexthara ordered. He hated to run from humans, but staying meant total destruction. But Colonel Morrison wasn't going to let them escape that easily. Stealth fighters pursue the fleeing ships, he ordered. Make sure they remember this lesson. Luke Anderson's fighter caught up with one of the damaged Zarathi cruisers trying to reach the edge of the star system. His torpedoes finished it off in seconds. Ashley Brooks destroyed another fleeing ship. The aliens had no defense against fighters they couldn't see. At 7 minutes into the battle, only 3 Zarathi ships remained functional. Vexthera's command ship and 2 escorts, all heavily damaged. "Sir," Katie Williams reported, "the remaining enemy ships are trying to jump to hyperspace." "Let them go," Morrison decided, "but give them something to remember us by." A final barrage of railgun fire struck the command ship just as it entered hyperspace. The alien vessel limped away with half its systems destroyed and its hull cracked in multiple places. At exactly 9 minutes after the battle began, the last Zarathi ship disappeared into hyperspace. The space around New Eden was filled with floating debris from destroyed alien warships. The hidden weapon systems of New Eden slowly powered down. The grain silos closed their missile hatches. The railgun batteries retracted back into their disguised positions. The stealth fighters returned to their underground hangars. In the command center, Colonel Morrison looked at the tactical display. Of the 12 Zarathi ships that had attacked New Eden, only 3 escaped. 5 were completely destroyed. 4 others were so damaged they would never fight again. "Damage report," Morrison requested. Major Rodriguez checked her displays. "All our systems are functional. No casualties among our personnel. Minor damage to shield generators from enemy fire, but they held perfectly." Morrison smiled. "Excellent work, everyone. Stand down from battle stations but maintain alert status. There might be more Zarathi ships in the area." Around the command center, the disguised soldiers began to relax. They had done their jobs perfectly. 5 years of pretending to be farmers had prepared them for this moment. Dr. Sarah Kim checked in from the medical center. "No injuries to report, sir. Our people performed exactly as trained. The battle had lasted exactly 9 minutes. In those 9 minutes, a supposedly defenseless farming colony had destroyed most of a Zarathi fleet and sent the survivors running in terror. But this was just the beginning. News of what happened at New Eden would spread throughout the galaxy. The Zarathi Empire would learn that human colonies weren't as helpless as they appeared. Other alien races would hear the story and wonder what other surprises humans had hidden among the stars. The balance of power in the frontier was about to change. Colonel Morrison stood up and looked around at his people. "Well done, everyone. Today we showed the galaxy that humans protect their own. No matter what disguise we wear, we're always ready to fight for our freedom." The soldiers cheered quietly. They had won a great victory. But more importantly, they had protected the illusion that would keep other colonies safe. New Eden would go back to looking like a peaceful farming settlement. The weapons would hide again. The soldiers would pretend to be farmers once more. But now the galaxy knew the truth. Human colonies were not easy targets. They were fortresses waiting for their enemies to make the mistake of attacking. The 9 minutes of fury were over. But their impact would last for years to come. 2 hours after the battle ended, New Eden looked like a peaceful farming colony again. The hidden weapons had retracted into their concealed positions. The missile silos looked like grain storage buildings. The railgun batteries appeared to be simple irrigation equipment. Colonel Morrison had changed back into civilian clothes. He was Jake Morrison, colony administrator once again, but this time the disguise felt different. The secret was out, at least partially. "Damage assessment complete," Major Rodriguez reported. She too had returned to her role as Amy Rodriguez, agricultural director. "All systems are back to normal operating status. The camouflage protocols are functioning perfectly." Jake nodded as he looked out at the fields where his people worked. Children played in the yards. Families were having lunch together. To any outside observer, it still looked like an ordinary farming settlement. But in space above New Eden, floating debris told a different story. Pieces of destroyed Zarathi warships drifted in slow orbits around the planet. The wreckage would be visible to any ship that came to investigate. "Sir," Megan Torres called from the communications center, "we're receiving a priority message from Human Command." Jake walked to the communications center and took the encoded message. It was from Admiral Patricia Stone, head of Human Defense Force Intelligence. "Colonel Morrison," the message began, "reports of the Zarathi fleet's destruction have reached us. Excellent work. However, your cover may be compromised. Prepare for increased alien attention in your sector." Jake understood what this meant. Other alien races would come to investigate what happened here. They would want to know how a farming colony had destroyed a Zarathi fleet. Send a reply, Jake told Megan. Mission accomplished. Cover intact but weakened. Request guidance on next phase operations. While Jake dealt with military communications, life in the colony continued normally. Ben Fletcher supervised grain loading at the storage facilities. Ryan Cooper maintained the farming equipment. Katie Williams cared for the livestock, but now everyone knew the truth about their neighbors. The baker who made bread each morning was actually a weapons specialist. The teacher at the school was a communications expert. The doctor who treated minor injuries was a combat medic. They had all lived together for 5 years, but they had never talked openly about their real jobs. Now that the secret was partially revealed, they could finally acknowledge what they really were. 3 days later, ships began arriving to investigate the battle site. The first to arrive was a Zanari science vessel. The Zanari were a peaceful alien race that studied space battles and military technology. Captain Jake Morrison met with the Zanari investigators in his office. They were tall, thin beings with blue skin and large eyes. They seemed nervous and curious. Captain Morrison, said the lead investigator, we detected a major space battle in this system. Our sensors showed debris from 12 Zarathi warships. Can you explain what happened here? Jake looked concerned and confused, playing his role perfectly. We saw explosions in the sky 3 days ago. It was terrifying. There were flashes of light and loud noises. We thought the world was ending. Did you see the battle itself? The investigator asked. No, we were all hiding in our shelters, Jake replied. When it was over, we came out and everything was quiet again. We have no idea what happened up there. The Zanari investigators studied the battle debris for 2 days. They found pieces of advanced human weapons, but they also found evidence that made the story confusing. The weapons were more advanced than anything humans were supposed to have, but the colony below showed no signs of military activity. The investigators couldn't understand how farmers had acquired such powerful technology. After the Zanari left, other aliens came to investigate. The Kethran Empire sent a scout ship. The Romulan Trade Federation dispatched investigators. Even some independent alien merchants came looking for salvage. Each group found the same thing: clear evidence of a major battle, but no explanation for how it happened. The human colony appeared to be exactly what it claimed to be: a simple farming settlement. But across the galaxy, rumors were spreading. Stories about human colonies that could defend themselves. Warnings that attacking human settlements might not be as easy as previously thought. Fleet Commander Vexithara had managed to return to Zarathi space with his damaged ship. But his report was met with disbelief by his superiors. You claim that farmers destroyed your fleet? Asked High Commander Kralthek. Farmers with advanced military weapons? I know how it sounds, Vexithara replied. But I saw it happen. Their weapons were more advanced than ours. They had stealth fighters we couldn't detect. Their shields stopped everything we fired at them. Perhaps you encountered a hidden human military base, suggested the High Commander. That's what I thought too, Vexithara said. But our investigations showed it really was a farming colony. There were families, children, livestock, grain fields. Everything looked normal. The Zarathi High Command didn't know what to make of the report. How could peaceful farmers have such powerful weapons? It didn't make sense according to their intelligence about human capabilities. Meanwhile, on New Eden, life continued as normal. The grain harvest was completed successfully. The livestock were healthy and productive. Children attended school and learned about farming techniques. But now everyone understood the bigger picture. New Eden wasn't just a colony. It was part of a vast human strategy to protect the frontier. 6 months after the battle, Admiral Stone visited New Eden in person. She traveled on a disguised transport ship that looked like a grain hauler. Her meeting with Colonel Morrison took place in the underground command center. The battle here has changed everything, Admiral Stone explained. Alien attacks on human colonies have dropped by 80%. Word has spread that our settlements might not be as defenseless as they appear. Colonel Morrison smiled. That was always the plan, wasn't it? Make them think twice before attacking. Exactly, the Admiral replied. But now we face a new challenge. Some alien races are demanding inspections of human colonies. They want to verify that we're really just farmers. What's our response? Morrison asked. We continue the deception. Most of our hidden bases will never be discovered. The aliens don't have the technology to detect our concealed installations. Admiral Stone activated a holographic display showing human space. Dozens of colonies were marked with special symbols. As of today, we have 73 installations like New Eden scattered across the frontier, she explained. Each one appears to be a peaceful settlement. Each one is actually a military fortress. Morrison studied the display. The scope of the operation was impressive. Human space was protected by a network of hidden bases disguised as innocent colonies. What about the other races? Morrison asked. Are any of them planning military action against us? Intelligence suggests that several alien empires are reconsidering their expansion plans, Admiral Stone replied. The Zarathi have suspended all attacks on human worlds. The Kethran Empire is focusing on easier targets. Even the pirate gangs are avoiding our colonies. This was exactly what Human Command had hoped for. By disguising military bases as farming colonies, they had created uncertainty in the minds of potential enemies. No alien commander wanted to attack what looked like peaceful farmers and discover they were actually facing advanced human warships. The meeting concluded with new orders for New Eden. They would continue operating as a farming colony while maintaining full military readiness. Other teams would be sent to establish similar installations deeper in unexplored space. After Admiral Stone left, Colonel Morrison walked through the colony streets. Children were playing games in the square. Adults were working in gardens and shops. Evening was approaching and families were gathering for dinner. Nicole Davis was hanging laundry behind her house. Sam Parker was teaching his son how to repair farming tools. Alex Martinez was playing with his daughter in their front yard. These people had sacrificed normal lives to serve humanity's defense. They had spent years pretending to be something they weren't. They had raised families and built a community while always being ready for war. Now their sacrifice had paid off. The battle at New Eden had sent a message across the galaxy. Human colonies were not easy targets. The frontier was safer because of what they had accomplished. Jake Morrison stood on his porch and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, other colonies like New Eden were continuing their secret mission. Farmers who were really soldiers. Peaceful settlements that were actually fortresses. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans were not as helpless as they appeared. Behind the friendly facade of farming communities lay the sharp teeth of a species that would fight fiercely to protect its own. The deception would continue. New ships would investigate from time to time, but they would find only farmers and grain fields. The truth would remain hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the next enemy foolish enough to test human resolve. The battle had lasted only 9 minutes, but its effects would protect human colonies for decades to come. The Zarathi Empire and other hostile forces now knew that attacking human settlements carried serious risks, and in the quiet farming colony of New Eden, ordinary people continued their extraordinary mission of defending humanity's future among the stars.